Need a little rabbinical assistance here.
What's the S?
The whole part is QRS. So to figure this whole thing out with commotio cordis, people actually did an experiment. Here's a cross section of a human chest, face down. Here's the belly, here's the back. And so the heart sits right here in the chest. This is the breastbone right here. You can't do this experiment on people. Some lawyers I'd like to do it on, but you know, okay. But so they actually took swine or pigs, and because their heart is also kind of similarly positioned right behind the sternum and the ribs, and delivered impact with various objects to see if they could recreate this in the lab. And they actually could. So this is normal heartbeat. Remember that PQRS, T, like we saw, and then all of a sudden you get this very irregular rhythm. And when the rhythm is doing this, the heart is not physically contracting. And this is why people pass out, because the blood is not being delivered to their brain. Right. Well, and so in a lab, they did a variety of experiments, and what they could find, this is the QRS, this is right after the QRS, and then this is different time around the T wave, the beginning of the T wave, the peak of the T wave, and afterwards. And they found that you really have to hit it right at one spot on this T wave in order to induce this rhythm. So they had to, so it has to be a very specific moment. Okay, there's like a 10 or 20 second millisecond. A millisecond is a thousandth of a second, and you got to hit it right on that spot in order to induce this irregular rhythm. It also varies with what you hit the heart with. So softballs don't very frequently cause the arrhythmia. When you go to harder balls, medium soft and least soft baseballs, you'll get it more commonly. Regulation baseballs are much harder, and they're more likely to do it. And then you could also whack the heart with a wooden object, and that's most likely to cause it. Actually, not infrequently in the right circumstances. So we know that this is generally, unfortunately, this generally happens in young boys. Part of it is the sports that they play. Part of it is that when you're younger, your chest wall and your ribs are still more flexible, and as you mature, everything kind of solidifies in terms of the bones. The other issue, of course, is that, you know, I don't know about you guys, but when I was a kid, yeah, I played baseball and soccer when I was in high school. By the time I got to college, I mean, we played a few intramural games, but not that much. And certainly after college, I actually used to play a little ice hockey late at night, but that was about it. So, you know, once you get out of high school, you're not playing baseball all the time or lacrosse all the time for a lot of people. So you see the incidents fall off. Oh, I didn't want to do that. There we go. So on the top screen, this is people under 10, kids age 11 to 15, 16 to 20. So you see that it really starts to fall off with young adults. So the purple one here are sudden deaths overall. The blue ones represent competitive sports. The less frequently is going to be recreational sports or just routine daily activities. Baseball is the biggest culprit because when you're playing baseball, especially the pitchers can get hit in the chest with a quick line drive that goes right there. Softball, less likely. Again, the balls are softer. A hockey puck can do it. Football, we've seen. Soccer, lacrosse. Boxing is less of a problem because the gloves are pretty big and they kind of spread out the impact a little bit. I know nothing about cricket, except that I chase them out of my house when they do that, et cetera. Basketball is obviously pretty infrequent. And so there's actually a large registry that's, I shouldn't say a large registry, there's a registry that has maybe about 250 cases of commotio cordis listed in it, and this registry has been going on for a while. So this is not a very common thing. And they've just highlighted all different circumstances when this has occurred. Obviously, baseball, a lot of them, some of them are struck by a pitch or struck by a batted ball, but sometimes it's, running into each other, as we see. Football, player hit in bodily collision, that sounds familiar. Soccer, hockey is not uncommon, especially those pucks travel really fast. And then there's a variety of non-sports episodes that have been recorded with people having fights or getting hit, or youth hit by a snowball. That must be,
As a rocket, it's not ice.
I don't know.
Stones in them, and that really kills them.
Is that what they do when you grew up, was put stones in the, where did you grow up? You grew up in a tough neighborhood.
Kids are mean.
Back when Bill Cosby was funny, there was this whole routine about how some kid hit him with an ice ball, and he was so upset that he grabbed some snow and made a snowball and put it in the freezer and was going to save it until the summer, and he couldn't wait for the day of revenge, and he pulled it out and he realized that his mother had cleaned out the freezer. But anyway, yeah, and then there's all these other sort of weird things that are just, very weird accidents that happen. So anyway, yeah, so you have to hit it at the right place, at the right time, with the right object. So fortunately, this doesn't happen very often, but it can. There's other variables here that we don't fully understand. Again, this is not something that's easy to study. And there may be other issues underlying this that make people more susceptible to it. Some people are born with some abnormalities of the electrical circuitry of the heart, or the way the heart recharges itself. Caucasians it's more common in Caucasians than African Americans. It's much more common in young men than young women, although some of that may be just a product of what sports they play. So there are a lot of factors that really are not fully known. Chest protectors don't fully help either. This is again out of this 224 cases in the registry. About 40 of them still had a chest protector and were not fully protected, versus about 85 that they identified playing recreational sports that didn't. So this is Go Red for heart. Go Red because this is Women's Heart Month and Heart Month in general. So it's really important to understand what CPR does and the use of a defibrillator. And I'm sure they have an automatic electrical defibrillator here. They have everywhere now, and I'll just show you a quick video about how these are used. It's really important that people not be afraid when they see somebody collapse to put one of these on, and while you're calling 911, do what we can to save people, because it really does substantially improve their chance of surviving, and you really need to resuscitate people within about 4 or 5 minutes if you're going to give them any chance. I think I have one more. Give me one more slide. Yeah, so some people are afraid. I mean, it's too complicated. They're afraid of, you're not going to get sued, okay? Nobody gets sued for this. Haven't been trained with it. I'm telling you, the AEDs will walk you through it, even if you haven't been trained, but it's a good idea to get CPR training. You're not going to hurt the person, just go do it. It's kind of interesting, we have a close friend of ours, and their nephew had a sudden death getting on a bus in Zurich. So turns out in Switzerland that when you get your driver's license, you have to do CPR training, okay? And this kid collapsed and was immediately at CPR. Turns out he was born with an electrical abnormality in his heart. He now has an implanted defibrillator to protect him in case this ever happens again, but he's okay,
Wow.
So thank God. But really, I mean, it was the right place at the right time, but you have a society that has a very high knowledge of CPR.
Is this kid's football career over, or will he be able to go back?
So the likelihood of this ever happening to him again is profoundly rare. As I said, all the stars have to align. I mean, he may have some other issues. Again, all I know is what I read in the paper. I mean, I know his lungs really took a beating. I mean, he was in the hospital for a while. So I don't know that just overall physically he can get back to it. As a team physician, I'd be pretty nervous about putting him back on the field, you know. And then the other issue is, you know, we're sort of making an assumption that this is otherwise a normal heart, and these things happen to people with normal hearts. But there's a variety of conditions that people need to be evaluated. You know, when you see an athlete pass, you know, a young athlete pass away, there's a variety of conditions. You need to make sure that they don't have a disease of the heart muscle called cardiomyopathy. You need to make sure that they don't have electrical abnormalities in their heart. So I'd be happy for him, but I'd be surprised if he gets back on the field. It's also a very complicated question because this is sort of a workman's comp situation. You know, he's only been, if you read about this, I mean, he's only been in the league a couple of years. He doesn't qualify for like lifetime, you know, good lifetime disability benefits. So anyway, yeah, you've seen all these AEDs all over the place. It's very easy. You turn it on, you follow the voice instructions, and if it tells you to shock the patient, then then you push the button and it'll deliver a shock. Okay, these computers are actually very good at reading whether this is a life-threatening heart rhythm that the person is experiencing or not. So it's very unusual for it to deliver a shock to somebody who shouldn't be shocked. We got a quick video just to show you how these things work. We hope.
Yeah, we have it.
Thank you to Rabbi Levy for all the AV assistance.
Recording in progress.
All right, let's turn off. Actually, here.
So there's one here at the center. Are they now, like, if you were at the mall, like, are they, I've never personally heard of this machine, but so are they now?
They're all over.
Popular items?
Yes, they're in any large place.
Facilities?
I don't come to the J that often. I don't know where there's one hanging out here, but I assume there's,
There's one when you walk in.
Yeah.
We have one in our building.
so now that you know what it is, every place you go, you'll see one.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask.
Okay.
What is it, ablation?
What's an ablation?
Yes.
So an ablation it's like a cauterization. It's a treatment where we use high energy or heat to burn something. So
Why is it used and how successful is it?
so so the question is, what's an ablation? Ablation is a technique to, as I said, to cauterize something using high energy, whether it's heat or electricity. So, I mean, you can basically destroy any tissue with an ablation, because some people have it on the nerves in the back. Cardiac wise, when patients have abnormal heart rhythms and abnormal electrical circuits that run the heart, sometimes we can go in with a catheter into the heart and cauterize that circuit to basically put that circuit out of business. So
How debilitating is it to the patient after they have one?
did you have one?
I'm having one.
Okay. So, I mean, it's a procedure. Sometimes these things take,
Stay home, I can't run around.
so I'm going to speak in very general terms, ma'am. Every patient is different. These generally take a few hours to do, depending on what type of rhythm they're approaching and how easy or difficult it is to find it and get rid of it. So people are going to, it's like any heart catheterization or procedure that we do on the heart. People are wiped out for a few days. We put you under sedation. You're in the hospital at least all day, if not overnight. And, it takes a week or two to get over, a one-day procedure like that. Sir.
On my EKG, and I think it's the S, instead of going up, it goes a little bit down. And he said, if you get one of these, tell them don't put you in surgery. You have to have other tests, but that's just the way your heart is.
I'm going to give you the question is, he has a low abnormality on his EKG, and what does that mean? And the answer, let me give you a very general answer. There are a lot of people out there who have funny looking EKGs, okay? And an EKG is a very wonderful tool, but it's not 100%. So we have some patients whose EKGs make it look like they've had a heart attack and their heart is really okay, okay? Flip side is we have patients who've had heart attacks and it doesn't show up on the EKG. But some people have funny looking EKGs. And again, when we interpret an EKG, it depends on what context you're in. So if you come see me in the office and we run your EKG and we say, yeah, it looks funny, but you know what? It always looks funny. We're like, fine, see you, have a nice day. I'll see you in a year, okay? If you walk into the emergency room and you're feeling a little funny here and they whip out that EKG, you're gonna have a heart procedure very quickly. You're gonna meet a cardiologist very quickly. So, because we're worried that you're having a heart attack. So, I actually do this with a lot of patients. If you have a funny looking EKG, now everybody's got a camera and a phone, most people do. I know there's a couple flip phone people in the audience still, but for the rest of you that have a smartphone, you just whip this out, we have them take a picture of their EKG, and I say, look, if you're ever in a medical situation, if you're ever in the emergency room, pull this out and say, hey, this is what my baseline EKG looks like. Don't get excited when you see mine.
Yeah, that's what he told me to tell
Okay. In the old days, we would take a photocopy and shrink it down and this and that. Now everybody's got a phone, take a picture, and that's how you protect yourself from meeting a cardiologist on an emergency basis. Sir.
Mr. Hamlin,
Yes.
are the ribs supposed to protect the heart? And when that blow comes, is it the rib hitting the heart that does the bad thing?
So the ribs do protect the heart in terms of, the ribs stayed intact. There are cases where people unfortunately have severe chest trauma that actually, the ribs will break, damage the heart.
Perhaps the hip that is break. You don't know. They didn't say in the paper.
I don't have any knowledge of it. My assumption is that this is what happened. Okay, and as I said, just the force of it, as I said, even just thumping somebody on the chest will deliver, it'll deliver a little bit of electrical signal to the heart muscle. And again, if you hit it at the right time, you know, you can induce this. But this is non-traumatic, okay? This we only consider, this is the diagnosis if the heart hasn't been injured or bruised. And you can injure the bruise or bruise the heart. We see this in people who suffer, you know, motor vehicle accidents especially. You know, the heart kind of swings. It's not fixed in one place. So if you have what we call a deceleration injury, you God forbid have a bad car accident and you go from 60 and all of a sudden you slam into something, well, the heart goes forward and hits the inside of the chest wall. So you can actually bruise the heart that way too.
I see on TV, they're advertising these portable, if somebody can carry in their pocket to take their own EKG. Are there any real value in somebody trying?
So, okay, so we're asking about what's called a cardiomobile device. There's a couple other brands out there. And it's a device that you can use. You put your fingers on the little app and you can, I'll pull up the website. So I actually, the honest answer is that these are very valuable for helping with patients who have palpitations, feel their heart pounding, or have irregular heart rhythms. The analogous product are these Apple Watches, the higher level ones that can do EKG. And we see a lot of people that show up and all of a sudden they've been told that their watch is showing an irregular heart rhythm called atrial fibrillation. Cardia.com. Yeah. Get rid of that.
That's on the
What?
This one?
Oh,
great, yeah. This is cardio.
Yeah. So this is the device that you're talking about. I actually encourage a lot of patients to get it if they're having problems with palpitations and irregular heartbeats. Yeah, that's good. Right. So you order it online. This is $79. You own it. They send you this little electrode. You got to download the app. Okay. You go to your grandkids. They'll be able to do this in a snap. Okay. Download the app from the App Store, sync it to the system, and it actually records an EKG. And there's a computer program in there that will tell you whether it's normal rhythm, whether it's atrial fibrillation. So if you're having problems with irregular heart rhythms or you've been diagnosed with irregular heart rhythms, it's really helpful. I don't tell everybody to get it, but we do tell people who are, you know, when they're having these things. And it's nice because if you put a monitor on, somebody comes in, they're having all these palpitations and irregular heartbeats, and we may put a monitor on them for a day, a week, a month, but it's hit or miss. You know, you monitor for a month, and on day 31, after we take it off, that's when you have the irregular rhythm. So you carry this around with you, you own it. It's
But if the gentleman takes one,
who?
say the gentleman said he has an irregular looking.
That's different.
Right,
That's different.
but if that shows
That's-
up there.
no, it doesn't.
You're in trouble.
No, it doesn't. It's a different abnormality on the EKG. This picks up irregular heart rhythms. That's it. His EKG makes it look like he's had a heart attack. Different. All right. Go ahead. Pick the last question.
Because I know he has to run.
Go.
vacation.
Pick the last question.
Anyone have a question?
Nope.
Last question.
All right. Oh, wait, last slide. Go back to my slideshow.
I took it out.
I had one last slide that said, "Thank you, Connie and Levy, for all you do for Smile on Seniors."